The news that EA is developing an Iron Man release means that more comic books will be coming to the world of video games, but the opposite has also happened. There are rare times when a video game is so successful and popular that it spawns a spin-off comic book. These typically expand on the lore of the world, add more to the story, and dive deeper into key characters. Some end up being long-running series while others only end up getting short stints. Regardless, if you're a fan of any of these games, these stories are worth seeking out. Infamous. In 2009, Infamous quickly found its place as one of the most intriguing and unique video games around. Taking control of a protagonist named Cole who gains electricity-based powers, players could use these abilities for good or evil, changing the story as they progress. 2 years later, and just before Infamous 2 arrived, a 6-issue comic series based on the game was released by DC. The plot takes place in between the two games and follows Cole as he moves from Empire City to New Mare. It isn't must-read material, but it's a nice addition for fans of the lore. Silent Hill. The Silent Hill series has produced some of the scariest video games ever released. What is far less known is that the franchise has been the subject of several different comic books, with the first dating back to 2004. Over the years, Dying Inside, Among the Damned, Painted Black, The Grinning Man, Dead, Alive, Hunger, Sinner's Reward, Past Life, and Downpour, and Story are all stories that have been released. Each only consists of a few issues and all deal with various people and their harrowing experiences in the titular town. Mirror's Edge. Another video game that was cutting edge and unlike anything that came before it was Mirror's Edge. Playing off of the popularity of parkour, the game saw the player control a protagonist through a first-person perspective as they jumped across buildings, ran up walls, and more. That ultimately made it difficult to go back and speedrun. That made for an exhilarating experience that feels hard to replicate in a comic book. Alas, the Dark Horse digital comic Mirror's Edge Exordium did a fine enough job of it and told the story of the events leading into the game. Tomb Raider. Admittedly, it would likely be difficult to think of any major video game fan who is unaware of the Tomb Raider comic books. The adventure game franchise became so big that it spawned toys, live-action film adaptations, and of course, comics that are actually still going today. The first run from 1999 through 2005 was primarily based on the same stories from the video games. The less famous comics came later on with occasional one-shots and then a new series following the continuity from the 2013 game reboot. It bridged the gap between entries and was well received. Street Fighter. It might seem odd to have a comic book series based on a fighting game, but it actually adapts very well to that medium. Tekken and Mortal Kombat both have comics, but it's Street Fighter that feels like it stands out for a handful of reasons. Although the gaming franchise dates back a few decades, the first comic didn't arrive until 2003. Since then, books have been released following the main storylines from the games, but there are also origin tales, crossovers with other games, and even swimsuit specials. Horizon Zero Dawn. Every few years, a game comes along that kind of sweeps up players everywhere, and in 2017, that game was Horizon Zero Dawn. Thanks to breathtaking visuals and a fantastic female protagonist in Aloy, this sci-fi RPG was a huge success. As is often the case with these comics, the ones for Horizon took place in between the story of the two games. Volume 1 was dubbed The Sunhawk, while Volume 2, which debuted this year, is titled Liberation and is from Titan Comics. Call of Duty: Modern Warfare 2. There's no doubt about the impact that Call of Duty: Modern Warfare 2 had on the gaming industry. It was a massive hit, with players engaging in multiplayer action for years. The sequel was also a success, and there's even a reboot slated for release. It got so big that it actually led to a 6-issue miniseries titled Modern Warfare 2: Ghost. This tie-in story centers on a key character named Ghost and focuses on his history leading into the game and how he got his nickname. The Last of Us. It's almost too fitting that The Last of Us led to a comic book series. The story is perfect for it, along the same lines as the long-running The Walking Dead comic book series, although this one only spanned 4 issues. Released by Dark Horse Comics, the comics were written by the game's creative director Neil Druckmann, and Faith Erin Hicks. That meant it could be perfectly in line with the story and tone of the games. Again, this acts as a prequel, following a young Ellie due to the uniqueness of her birth and how she was raised in a post-apocalyptic world. Uncharted. Like The Last of Us, Uncharted is another gaming series from Naughty Dog, and like the aforementioned Tomb Raider, it's another adventure franchise. The game has given players iconic characters like Nathan Drake, who is legendary enough to lead to a feature film. In terms of comics, it started with Eye on Indra, a 4-part motion comic. Meanwhile, Drake's Fortune was an adaptation of the prologue from the game of the same name, and DC's Uncharted was a 6-issue series following Nathan on a journey to Hollow Earth. Metal Gear Solid. Given the deep lore that comes with Metal Gear Solid, there are likely dozens of stories that could be told in comic book form. In fact, the game has been turned into novels, CDs, and more. It was in 2004 that a comic book came to life, though. Released by IDW Publishing, the series spanned 24 issues and was put together into a compilation titled Metal Gear Solid Omnibus. There was also a comic adaptation of Metal Gear Solid 2, Sons of Liberty, and some were even turned into motion comics for the PSP.